All right, everyone. Welcome to Rep Your Hood with Mortgage Boss Andrea. I am Andrea Wilson, known as Mortgage Boss Andrea. And this is the session where we talk about real money and real moves right in your own backyard. So I'm interviewing various agents across the country to talk about where's the best place to live, allowing them the opportunity to showcase their city on all things real estate and a little bit about the area. So, thank you for joining in today. Again, I'm Andrea Wilson, NMLS 747-835. So, let's go ahead and get into it. And so, go ahead and tell the people who you are.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Bryce Smith. I'm a licensed realtor here in Columbus, Ohio. So I service Columbus, Ohio, and all surrounding suburbs here in the city.
All right. So, how long have you been in the business?
I've been in the business for about 5 years now, and I've actually been with the same company, Caldwell Banker, the entire time. So I
Okay.
guess you could say I'm a loyal person.
Yes, that's great. So, um, do you have a niche that you work on within the industry?
I
Like a
do.
specialty? Like, do you work first time home buyers or veterans or anything?
Yep. Of course, I help everyone that needs some assistance, but my niche is kind of first time home buyers because, I'm not someone that it's a foreign, thing to me to walk people through step by step and probably hold their hand throughout the entire process and make sure that they're getting access to a lot of those different programs that are available for first time home buyers. So explaining, from point A to Z, the ins and out of buying here in Columbus or even real estate in general is something that I'm passionate about and making sure that people are educated on home ownership and what exactly that means.
Okay.
Um, Another group that I do service a lot is a lot of people that, maybe you're already in a home and are ready to upgrade, but they really want to kind of go new. That's a lot of things that these
Mhm.
days first time home buyers don't really do is to build new. So that second home when they do want to build, I do specialize in new builds too. So, and the reason for that is because I actually went to school for architecture and construction management. So that's what I started in, that's what
Okay.
my degree is in. So I know construction like the back of my hand. So those are my two strong suits.
Okay. Now, is there a lot of new construction happening there in Columbus?
There is. Columbus is definitely a growing city. And, to keep up with the influx of people moving here, our inventory is low. So,
Okay.
to keep up with that, these builders here are constantly developing new neighborhoods, master plan communities, um, all over the city to keep up with, the inventory that's needed here in Columbus. So, across, the whole city, there's, different price points, different kind of new builds that are available to people now.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the Columbus area. What is there to do? Like for someone that is, I don't know, that is down south or out west, and
Uh-huh.
what would attract somebody to Columbus?
Well, I always say that Columbus has a little something for everybody. Whether you like the nightlife, the quiet suburban lifestyle, or even maybe the rural areas, or somewhere in between, it has, something specific for everyone. Um, and because of that, when people move here, they kind of like to stay sometimes in their little bubble in their city, like
Hmm.
a suburb of Columbus, like Westerville or Dublin. And so when you have all this new development now, people are making sure that there's things to do, places to go, places to eat, that really attract people to live in that particular area. So there's places all across the city, but a couple I want to highlight in particular is, a newer development is called Bridge Park. They have a bunch of activities, restaurants, whatever you want to think of, they probably have it there. And, we have more historic areas too, like German Village, that has a lot of the historic restaurants, the brick roads, and the staples of Columbus that have been here for almost 100 years.
Mm,
So there's a pretty good mix of things to do here. And especially if you like the nightlife, or, Columbus is known for a lot of rooftop bars.
mm.
So that's
Okay.
going to be like in the short north area that is, different from what it was back in the day. It's been
Okay.
completely revamped. A bunch of things have come and opened there. So it's really a really big attraction for a lot of different people across different age groups because it offers so much.
I like a good rooftop bar
Uh-huh.
situation. I didn't know that about Columbus. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I would say, of course, I've been to all of them.
Okay.
But my favorite is Lincoln Social just because they have good food. And of
Ooh,
course, being in the Midwest, I like
okay.
seafood a lot. So it's probably a
Oh, they
little
have
bit more
seafood places
they do,
at the
yeah, but
Lincoln place. Look,
they do. They have oysters and yeah, mm-hmm. The Brass Eye is a really good one. Goodell Station, Stories on High. There's Astra Rooftop with really good drinks, and they have shots that light on fire too. But
really?
yeah, uh-huh. But it's each one has a different vibe, but
Okay.
that is really popular here in Columbus in the downtown area.
Okay. So I know that a lot of people like what we consider, they call us kind of the Midwest, but I feel like not so much. But
Mm-hmm.
would you say it's a little slower pace? Is it a good place to raise families?
It is, yep. And if you don't really like the hustle and bustle of, everyday life, and um you kind of just want to take things at a slower pace, there is places here in Columbus that allow you to do that, but still have easy access to the city and downtown Columbus.
Okay.
Everything in Columbus is kind of, no matter where you are, it's not that far away from each other. So if you like the slower pace, kind of, raise your kids, the kids can go outside and maybe ride their bike around the neighborhood, or walking paths, or tennis courts, whatever you want to do, it's
Okay.
right there. That would be kind of like your New Albany, Westerville. Um, Even, and you can't really go wrong with any of the suburbs because they also offer something a little bit different. A lot of times when you have people that are coming here to raise families, they want really good school district. So Olentangy area, which is north of Columbus, Hilliard, Dublin, those are pretty much the hot pockets for people that are moving here to raise a family, um, for their kids to build, lasting friendships, connections, because you're in the same school district, and that's what a lot of people move here for.
Okay.
And
What about the
this freedom too.
traffic? What's the commute like if you have to go to downtown Columbus, let's say, in certain parts of the country, like Atlanta,
Hmm.
Georgia, you have to leave, I don't know, an hour before. And even in Houston,
Yeah.
the traffic is just
Uh-huh.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not like that here.
Okay.
The interesting thing about how Columbus is set up is downtown Columbus is truly at the center of the city. And
Mm.
then you have
Oh, so
all
you can
the
come in. So everyone's coming in from different directions.
Exactly. And compared to other cities like your Atlanta, or even, I don't know, another hot place, the traffic isn't terrible to me. There's traffic everywhere, but I would say if, let's say you're commuting from downtown Columbus to like the Westerville or Pickerington, which is kind of southeast of Columbus, you can get somewhere in 20-25 minutes
Okay.
here. And the one thing that you'll run into is if you're going from, the northwest side, which is Dublin, down to the southeast side, which is Pickerington, that is going to be a longer commute. But as
Okay.
far as, getting around, it's not that difficult.
Okay. Okay, so tell me a little bit about the housing inventory. That's it. What style homes? Like, do you have a lot of colonial style? Is it a lot of older historical homes? What is the general
Mhm.
makeup of the housing stock?
So nowadays, especially with new construction on the rise here, it's a lot of traditional, construction. You have some farmhouse. People love the farmhouse vibe, so we have farmhouse here. We have craftsman, but those pretty much are big three: traditional, craftsman, and farmhouse
Okay,
across what's available with new builds. But like I said, we do have those, historic areas like German Village, Harrison West, which is near the Short North area, that homes have been here for 100 plus years that have been, redone and are just as beautiful, that are worth a whole lot of money now. So, yeah, and people who love those historic areas just really like an established neighborhood, not a
yeah,
whole lot of construction. Everything is mature there and nothing's really changing, not really a high turnover.
okay. Is it average like 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths? Is that generally what's pretty easy to find?
That's pretty easy to find, but across new construction, what's pretty consistent is 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 2 car garage. That's pretty much the standard
Okay,
here. hmm And our
okay.
average price
Gotta
point
have a
now is
garage.
in, yeah, I know. I don't like my car on the street, so. But yeah,
All right.
when you're kind of inner city, that's where you have, maybe less, maybe 3 bedrooms, like 1.5 bath, like you had mentioned. But if you get to the suburbs,
Okay.
that's typically where you get more house.
Okay. And what about average sale price of homes? Like how much could they spend 200,000 and get something there, or do they need to be like a half a million? How much should someone prepare for?
Well, I always say anything is possible, especially when you're working with me or us, right? Yeah. So I would say to get a decent home here in Columbus, you probably want to be between 250, 300.
Okay.
But what's interesting too, and again about new construction, is you can get more house, and it, it's not too pricey. It's probably in the mid threes to start. So, but any
Okay.
decent home here, if you
Roughly,
would if you want 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, then I would say 300 is a great price.
okay. And roughly how much square footage would that be?
Between 1,500 and 2,000.
Okay, that's not
Mm,
bad.
yeah.
Not at all.
Mhm. No, I don't think so. I think that's pretty good compared to other states.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So in terms of like the folks that live and work there, what is the industries like, or the job market like? Are you guys a big like healthcare market, or is there another type of industry? What do most people do there?
So the interesting thing about Columbus is we don't rely on one industry here. So we're really big on healthcare, education, which is really driven by, the Ohio State University,
Yeah.
you know, finance and insurance, tech and logistical type jobs. Data centers are, coming here, moving here, and government is, popular here too. So
Yeah.
Columbus has a really good mix, which is why it's such a popular and fast growing city, and you see an influx of people moving here.
Okay. That's good to know.
hmm
Um, so let's talk about some of those transactions you've done. So you've been in the business for 5 years. So you've probably run into some crazy situations. Can you
Of
share
course.
what is one of the like wildest deals or situations you've had to deal with?
Hmm. There's plenty, and I don't want people to feel like I'm talking about them.
You don't have to say names.
Right, right. But as a lender and a realtor, sometimes we wear many hats. And so I would say more recently, communication is key. And a lot of households aren't really good with communication. So
Mhm.
maybe, one thing I tell one, I have to be sure to tell the other, or things that maybe one's spouse has thought the other one hasn't. And so when you're meeting with me and we're talking about and going through different scenarios and there's a disagreement, I've had a full blown, fight in front of me before between a married couple. And I was like, okay, let's rein it
Mm.
in. And I'm like, I'm turning into the daggone counselor.
Have
So,
you seen that meme recently, or the TikTok video where the realtors in the other room like listening to them fight? That's a video, a
yes.
TikTok video trending right now.
Yeah, exactly. So in situations like that, I take a step back and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let you both talk and, get on one accord, and then I'll come back. Well, I'll come back and nothing has happened. And so I'm having to be the one to rein everyone in and get everyone on track, to move forward, which is stressful. But it always works out. So sometimes we're the marriage counselor, we're the therapist, or whatever. So yeah, we just have to keep our people on track.
Tell me what's something that you wish most buyers kind of knew, kind of going into it.
Well, that's an interesting question because
Uh-oh.
so I wish buyers knew that timing matters more than they think.
That's
In
good.
the peak season, there's more competition. And if you're buying in slower months when it's colder, like maybe October, November to beginning of or end of February, then that means you have more negotiation power. If you need extra credits or things like that, that's easier to get in the slower months rather than peak season. Not to say that's impossible because we're going to make a way to get you in there, but everyone wants to move when the kids are out of school and it's warmer, things like that. So that's why in this industry, it's such a booming time, for us and a lot of people moving around.
Hmm.
Another thing that I wish buyers knew is inspection and appraisal is something that buyers have to pay for. That's what's called our due diligence period to make sure that, everything with the property is in the condition that you're comfortable with and that the home is worth what we're paying.
Hmm. That's great information, and I definitely feel
Uh oh.
like,
I can't hear you.
uh-oh,
Can you hear me?
still.
Hello.
All right. So when it comes to first time home buyers, I know we talked about something that you wish that buyers knew kind of going into the process. But what about even
Hmm.
those first time home buyers? Is there a piece of advice you want to give to them specifically?
Trust your agent, trust your team that you have, your lender and your realtor, because we're the experts. We're going to have your back through thick and thin and walk you through the entire process. And especially being your first time, just ask all the questions, get as much information as possible. Um, so yeah, I think that's probably the most simple advice that I can give. And also, your first home is not going to be your forever home. It's called a starter home for a reason. So not
Yeah.
everything is going to be 100% perfect. Real estate is about investing.
Yeah.
So get in where you can fit in. And you're not going to be in there forever. You can upgrade later, but this is your start and to get into real estate.
Yes. I like that. Great information.
Mhm.
It kind of had me thinking too, like sometimes people look for the cheapest person in the
Mhm.
marketplace, and that
Yeah.
won't get you very far. And then you're wondering why the deal falls apart, or
Mhm.
your agent or your team is inconsistent with communication. So you want the
Mhm.
professional. So great information in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me about the market there in Columbus over the last tell me about the market there in Columbus over the last 6 months. Has it shifted? Have you seen a lot of shift there, or has it just been steady?
Compared to the last 6 months, I would say our market is still very steady. Inventory is still low, but homes are still selling for pretty much, I would say about 98% of the time of its asking price, if not a little higher. But compared to, last year, I would say, um, buyers are pushing back a little bit more. They're, we're getting more comfortable with asking for things like home warranties or seller concessions towards buyers closing costs, because there's also fewer bidding wars, which means more flexibility with getting them into a home. um, but active listings are up a little bit right now, compared to last year, so there is more inventory but still at a very low amount.
Okay, great. And then, do you recall a time that you were working with a client and you got them to the closing table, and now as you look back over your career and where buying a home like genuinely helped them out or put them in a better position?
Yeah, absolutely. I have, one family in particular that for I would say 2 years, just didn't think it was possible for them. And, I knew a little bit of their situation. And I knew that if they just could take the time to sit down with me and at least hear me out and explain the process and kind of let me into their world a little bit of why they're thinking this way. What kind of income do you have? What debt do you have? Just so I can get them to the next point, which would be to talk to a lender, talk to you to show them that this is possible for real. And I would say it took me 2 years to
Mhm.
work on them, because they were, in a rental, not happy in a rental. They went to live with, parents, to get themselves, where they wanted to be. But a lot of times when you're in an environment where you're not 100% happy, there's really no motivation to change it sometimes for some people. So they came in, we had a conversation that told them it was possible that they could do something, right away. Even though they didn't think that they were in a position to do something. And so I said, if you can just trust me, that I will get you, in a place in 30 days. Um, th- then go through with it. And so they did. And then I actually had a listing appointment with one of my past clients that wanted to move out of state. And I thought it was the perfect home for them because I got a kind of good grasp on their style. And I just knew that home was for them. So I asked, my seller if I got her a buyer before we hit the market, would she accept it? And she said, yeah. So we got them pre-approved the next day. We went to look at the house and they liked it. And then they went into contract the next day and moved in probably in 3 weeks. So that story to me meant the most
That
because
is so
y-
awesome.
yeah, just because it is, it seems impossible, but the fact that they were able to at least try, you know, it meant the most, and the fact that they trusted me to get them there.
Wow. That is really awesome. That's a huge commitment to stay working with someone for a 2-year period. Most people would have
Hmm.
given up on them. So
Hmm.
kudos to you for doing that. And really, the marketplace, Columbus needs agents like you that's willing to do that to help more people become homeowners. I
Hmm.
have one more question for you. We talked about the
Okay.
nightlife, but
Uh-huh.
what is your favorite restaurant? Where do we need to come have a
Oh,
meal at in Columbus? I'm writing it
okay.
down too.
Okay. I would say well, what kind of food do you like?
I'm a foodie. I will eat any kind of food.
Okay.
I will
Well,
try anything.
you need to try Butcher and Rose. It's all
Butcher
rose.
rolls.
Yep, it's all rose themed, and they have really good, this is steakhouse. So they have really good steak
Okay.
cocktails. I've never had, anything that I think was less than amazing there. They even have a baked
Mhm.
scalloped, inside of a piped potato. So it's a good restaurant. Another
You're a
one.
foodie too. I'm
I
picking up on this.
I am. I definitely am. Another restaurant you have to try is Lasanti. That is actually
Okay.
based in Cincinnati, and they just opened
Okay.
a Columbus location here, in downtown Columbus, and
Okay.
that's an Italian steakhouse. So they make their pasta from scratch. They have really good steak. Everything that I've had there is, fantastic as well. But if you're looking for a restaurant that has, the ambiance and really good food, Butcher and Rose is the number one for me.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Give you a round of
Uh-huh.
applause here.
Yeah. 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 So you have to let me know when you're down in Columbus so I can
Thank
take
you
you
for
around.
joining me. It has been. Um, yeah, I actually be there on the third. I'll probably be there on the second and third, 2 days. I will be there, so I'll send you a message and let you know.
Okay.
Um, but thank you for joining in. It's been my pleasure having you. And so, if you guys are thinking about relocating to Columbus, Bryce a call. Reach out to them. How can they reach you? I need to
Mhm.
share that. What's the best way for them to contact you?
So they can call me at 614-804-3178 or email me at bryce.smith@cbrealty.com. You can also find me on social media at bryceg.smith. And my first name is spelled with a Y, not an I. And you can also go to my personal website, brycesellscolumbus.com.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.